Okay, I'm going to go over step 1 in section B, which is the servo installation. We recommend the 5085mg servo. First thing is to replace the round servo arm with the star servo wheels. So we use arm 1. I'll size that up so a 2mm screw threads into it. I'll do the other side too. Got a drill in my hand. The balls and screws for these servo arms came out of the control linkage pack that we opened up in section A. Just screw this ball onto the outer hole on arm 1 and snug it up without stripping out the plastic. Just screw this ball into the outer hole of arm 1 and tighten it up without stripping out the plastic. I'll remove these wheels. We've left the servo blocks or the servo mounts loose in here, and the servos go such that the output arm is up. And the wires all run out the front of that side frame, so you can either route them before or after. The trick here with those servo blocks loose, you can actually get the front of the servo, the wire grommet underneath the upper block, and then get this side of your servo started and snap it into the slot, and then once it's snapped into the slot, you can slide the top of your servo down in, and once they get all the way down there, they'll snap into this slot that's cut into the servo holder, or we may have to pry that in a little bit. These slots are a little bit small, so you can just pry that in with a screwdriver and get those servos lugs into those slots. You can see the center hole that we drilled in the section A is lined up with the single lug on the servo itself. So we'll put each one of these servos in. This back servo the wire runs out past the far side of the main rotor shaft on top of the control torque rods. But the arm is still, the servo output is still up. You want to get that wire grommet on the servo underneath the upper one, then snap in the lower one into the slot and then pull the servo down so the top of it goes in. And snap the top all the way down, and then pry with a screwdriver the servo so the lugs sit all the way into the slots. And once you get all 4 servos in, you can tighten up these servo holders. Now take a little time just to make sure those servos are centered in the side frames. If they're not, you can just pry them over. You don't want them contacting the side frames. So slide them side to side. The screws that are used to hold the servos in place are currently not supplied in the kit, and you need somewhere between a 5mm and a 10mm screw to install those servos. I just use a 2mm cap screw. That we do supply these G10 washers that are used to hold the servos in place. So just use a 2mm cap screw with the G10 washer. The hole in the G10 washer isn't centered. So put the short side next to the plastic block and the long side. So you can see the hole's not perfectly centered in there, so the short side goes next to the plastic block. Next thing I do is dike off the arms on the servo star wheel that's not going to be used, and I will do either side, but I'll leave this one opposing because it doesn't get in the way of anything. And then I'll plug those onto the servos, and they go, the ball goes towards the middle, and this back servo actually ends up hooking up to this double arm on the front double arm, so the back servo actually moves the front of the swash plate. It's a little confusing. I've had people mix that up. And take the original screw and star washer. I always like to Loctite these. These will be adjusted in a later step, but I still like to just tighten them up. Anyway, sometimes you get lucky and they're in the right spot. Okay, snug this last one up, and that's the servo installation.